As people leave California, leave the Valley in record numbers that you've talked about so much, are you concerned that that culture is going to dissipate at all, or do you think that seed has been planted and it's going to continue?
Candidly, the Bay Area was broken. There were too many people here, and it was causing so much pain and angst that if we could lose another 10 or 20% of people in this area, it would be fantastic. It wouldn't be fantastic for the value of my home. But honestly, like, it's so bad here. Putting aside the crime in San Francisco, I live in the wider Bay Area, and really a big part of the trend is people leaving San Francisco proper to live in Napa, the East Bay, or the South Peninsula, or Santa Cruz because of remote work. And then if you do need to go to a dinner in San Francisco, if San Francisco ever rebounds, you could just come there. But it's actually, the pandemic has changed everything for how I work. I would only meet with founders in person. And, that was sort of a test for me. Will they come to San Francisco? Will they have coffee? Can we spend 2 hours with them? And I would never do remotes. I was just like, this is stupid. And I would never do a remote podcast because nobody had a good setup. Now you look at this setup and you look at the technology, whether it's StreamYard, Restream, Zoom, and everything, all of these things have leveled up from like, Skype and Google Hangouts was kind of janky. Now it's all flawless. Everybody uses a headset. You don't see I'm using a headset, but I have ear monitors in, like Sting or Carl Cantoni on CNBC. And we all have beautiful cameras and the great microphones. You don't see my microphone, but here it is. And so the fidelity is great, which means I can meet 3 or 4 times as many startups. They can meet 10 times as many investors. The meetings are only 15, 20 minutes. People don't want to meet for, some crazy amount of time. And, that means I think it's facilitating a level of funding that's just faster. So if it would take 20 meetings to meet a founder and you're doing them all in person and you did 2 or 3 a day, that's going to take 2 weeks. Now, if you're doing 5 a day, 4 a day, it's going to take, you can do twice as many basically.
Have you completely changed your mind on that? So like
yes,
you don't want to do any in-person meetings at all anymore.
Loom Zoom Room is the new model. People send me Looms of them running through their deck. So it's like a little circle video of them, picture in a picture. Yep. You don't have to use the actual software Loom, but it rhymes. So people send me a deck typically with a video. Hey, Jake, I wanted you to run me through your deck. Like he took the time to do that and make a 10-minute video, not knowing if I'm going to watch it or not. Like, wow. And you know who I am and what makes me tick. Like that's super powerful. Like, so power tip for folks. Zoom, obviously we do a 20-minute call. We answer questions, but nobody wants to be on a Zoom more than 20 minutes. And then Room. After I've invested, you happen to be in the Bay Area. I happen to be in LA. We grab a cup of coffee, go to a conference room, go to a Starbucks, or have a meal. So that's the new model. It's more efficient. I didn't think founders would embrace it. I never thought VCs would embrace it. Everybody's embraced it. So here we are. I think you have to adapt to the system that's presented to you. And then in terms of podcasts, I have Molly Wood as my co-host now on This Week in Startups. And then I do the All In podcast with Chamath, Friedberg, and Sachs. That podcast could never happen if the 4 of us had to be in the same location, given we're in different cities all the time and we're different places in the Bay Area. And then with Molly, I would have never gotten her as co-host because she's in the East Bay and doesn't want to come to the city every day. And I no longer want to go to the city every day. But here we are every day. We record once or twice a day. This Week in Startups is now 6 days a week. So the ads are sold out. Like I think we have some ads in the 3rd quarter and we're selling the 4th quarter of the year. Like it's bonkers in year 12 of the podcast. So it's just so much more efficient. And because the fidelity is so much better, like literally when people are on our podcast, we send them a headset, a microphone, a dongle for Ethernet and a 50-foot Ethernet cable. And they're like, why are you sending me Ethernet cable? I'm like, do me a favor, find your router, run this Ethernet cable just for the hour, tape it down. And here's a dongle to put into your MacBook. And they're like, I have Wi-Fi. I'm like, yeah, and it sucks. And then turn your Wi-Fi off and use Ethernet. And then all of a sudden it's crystal clear. And so like podcasters out there or people doing Zoom meetings, like if you can hire somebody to run a cable through your wall to your office for $500 or $1,000 or whatever it takes, do it. It's going to be a game changer. And Wi-Fi extenders don't work. Wi-Fi doesn't work. You have to use an Ethernet cable.
That's interesting. A long time ago when I had started a different show, I had that challenge that you're talking about of having guests that their connections was terrible, their mics were terrible. And I thought about, I never executed on it, but actually implementing like, let me send you a mic, let me send you a camera every single time with these guests. And then maybe even start a business out of it, but just never did it anyway.